honest with you all, I am relatively new here at Texas A&M. I've only been here for about a little over 5 months. So I'm actually originally from Chicago. So yeah, when I say howdy, I'm like, oh my gosh, man, this is hard, but it's all right.
Well,
I'm making
welcome.
a transition. Well, thank you. So now I do want to point this out. We will be speaking about some heavy topics, and of course some very uncomfortable topics to some individuals. However, I'm going to let this be known now. I may be perceived as an expert and this professional and all that. However, I do want to let you all know when it comes to these topics, I don't know everything. I'm still continuing to educate myself on these topics. So if I'm still learning, if I'm still educating myself on the very work that I do, how much information is out there that you all don't know about? I just want to put that out there. And not only that, if you all have questions, comments, or concerns, please go ahead, raise your hand and say something. Why? Because, like I said, we're all learning. I can learn from you all just like you all can learn from me. Alright? We on the same page about this? Okay. Ooh, y'all so quiet. My gosh. You know what? I just need one volunteer, and I promise you ain't going to do anything hard. One volunteer. One brave soul. Raise their hand.
Trey.
I got you. Alright, so I just need you to say one thing. Say, I know you need unique New York.
I know you need
Yeah, I know. You almost had it. So yeah, sometimes it may look like I'm talking to myself up here. I just be practicing some tongue twisters. Why? Because I'm presenting, so I try not to fumble over my words. Sometimes it may happen, but it's all right. Because like I can talk, you all can talk as well. So don't be afraid to speak your all's mind. All right, so nonetheless, let's get started. Like I said, my name is Dimitri, and I work for the Office of CLEAR. It's like, CLEAR, well, what does that stand for? So this is what it stands for. It is an acronym. It actually stands for Consensual Language, Education, Awareness, and Relationships. So let's be clear. That's our official tagline. It's like, well, let's be clear about what? Well, we can be clear about a lot of things. We can be clear about our relationship, be clear about our boundaries, be clear in our communication, nonetheless be clear in our consent. So I ain't gonna lie, every now and then I might be saying the word clear in my sentences. Now I might crack up sometimes, and you all can feel free to laugh as well. It's not required, but it's highly recommended. So, moving on. Here is a mission statement, and we developed this our very first day of starting, which was September 1st of last year, which was my first day of work. So relatively, we are a new office. Now, bear with me because I will read this mission statement word by word. So just make sure y'all follow along. Just kidding. I wouldn't do that to you all. I'm not going to read this entire paragraph because I'm pretty sure y'all can read. However, I do want to sum it up for you all. And with the Office of CLEAR, what we strive for is for all of our students, staff, and faculty to be on a campus environment that is free of any form of abuse, free of any form of harassment, free of any form of discrimination, so we can all live and work in a healthy campus environment. All right? And here are definitely some of the programs we provide. I don't know if you all know what SHARP stands for, but that's the Sexual Harassment and Rape Prevention Women's Self-Defense Classes. I'm the coordinator for that. And my colleague, Ryan Jackson, he actually does the Green Dot training, so he coordinates all of that. And last but not least, we do have Step In, Stand Up. And I'm going to revisit the campaign. But just by show of hands, how many of you all know about the campaign Step In, Stand Up? Really? That's it? Wow, yeah, we don't have to talk about that. Okay, so, consent. I'll bring up my colleague's name once again. His name is Ryan Jackson, and he does a very good job of defining what consent means. Now, for real, no lies, I will read this one. Now, it is consent to make a mutual, voluntary, informed decision between clear-minded, of-age participants before any and every sexual act. Now, looking at this definition that he provided, what are some key words that stand out to you all? Mutual, nice. Voluntary, clear-minded, informed,
Of age.
of age,
Before any and every.
before any and because y'all pretty much said it all. And whenever I ask groups, the key words in this definition, they say every single thing that you all just said. However, there's one thing that's usually left out. Verb. I know, that forgive me, I know I just point and I do these weird things, but for real, verb, it's an action. We have two people getting together and they are actually agreeing to do something together. So I just want to point out that it is something active, something that two people actually agree upon. Y'all follow me? Alright, and next up, have y'all seen this video?
Yeah.
Yeah, now what did y'all think about it, honestly? I know it's quite a unique video.
I liked it.
You liked it?
It's a good analogy.
Yeah, it's as simple as tea, right? I like that. Now, overall, I do want to highlight something. So I want to come back to this whole initiative of Step In, Stand Up. What does it actually mean to step in, stand up for those of you who have heard of the campaign? Oh my gosh, did y'all hear that? Silence. Yes.
You don't just watch sexual harassment or a sexual assault occur. You step in and you try to help the person that is the victim of it.
Definitely. Yes, so it's being that person who is willing to step in, be involved, and stand up against any form of violence whatsoever. So be that bystander who's actually going to do something rather than watch something happen. So that is what we're trying to highlight through our campaign. And next up, I actually have a nice little activity for you all. Bear with me for a little bit. Gotta switch my PowerPoints. Alright, so we're gonna get started. This is to test you all, and yes, we're gonna play a little bit of Family Feud, alright? So, I will be your host for tonight, or not even tonight, this evening. And my name is Dimitri Westbrook, and let's test you all's knowledge on some of the things that I have just said. So overall, yes, this is Family Feud, and you all are gonna get a nice chance to play. So, overall, I am going to go ahead and give you all the first question. And let's see if you all can get it right. What does CLEAR stand for? And don't shout them out, just please raise your hand. Yes.
Consensual.
Yes. So, show me consensual. Right there. What else?
Language.
Language. Show me language. Nice.
Education.
Education. Show me education. There we go. Oh my gosh, what's up?
Awareness.
Awareness. Show me awareness. Anybody remember the last one? Oh, all right, y'all getting it. That's what I'm talking about. That's what's up. So, y'all passed the first round. Let's see if y'all can actually pass the next round. Congratulations on that one, by the way. Y'all did very well. Name services and programs that CLEAR provides. Yes.
Show me green dot, Dimitri.
Oh, nice. Where is Green Dot? Oh! Yes.
Sharp.
Sharp. Show me sharp. Oh, you got it. What else? Stand in, stand out. Well, I mean, step in, stand up. Yeah, I got you. Oh, that was the #1 spot. That's what I'm talking about.
What did I say?
You said step in, stand out, something like that. However, what's the last two? Oh, my fault. Ignore number 6. That's a typo. So number 4 and number 5. Dun dun dun. Didn't think it was gonna be this hard, did you? I'll come back to you. Yes. Survivor advocate. Yes, I'll give you that one. No, you said survivor services. Yeah, you're pretty much right on that one. However, last but not least,
It was something about Title IX, right?
let's see. Show me Title IX. Woo! Nice. You're absolutely right. So I do want to highlight with Title IX, if there is a report of any form of violence, so sexual harassment, sexual violence, dating or domestic violence, and nonetheless stalking, our university has an obligation to do something about it. Why? Because it interferes with one's education. Now, I know I just said something very big. I said it interferes with one's education. How would some of these issues interfere with one's education? Yes.
You're thinking about something that happened last night, or you're worried about something that's going to happen, like someone's stalking you or someone's doing something like that. You can't focus on studying or going to classes.
Thank you for sharing that. Would anybody else like to contribute? Yes.
If you're being like harassed or stuff, you might not want to leave like to go to class. You might not want to like take a break, feel safe.
Excellent point. I'm glad you actually said that. Anything else? Yes.
And you might also not even feel safe at the university.
That you all are getting. I'm liking this discussion right now. No, for real. Anything else? Yes.
I think maybe before all of this happened, like Title IX started being a thing, people didn't know what consent was. So, like having education and educating men too about it and saying
Mhm.
this is what you should do, it helps them out so that they aren't being sued for something. They know the lines, and so they can actually have an education and not be in the courtroom.
Yeah, and you all are absolutely right on these things. So overall, I do want to put a perspective out there. Now, with all the 5 issues that I had spoke about, stalking, dating and domestic violence, and sexual harassment, with these issues, a lot of the time, it is completed by someone that the survivor actually knows. So, yeah, now what does this look like in regards to the relationship dynamics? Could be co-workers that are perpetrating these issues, could be friends, it could be intimate partners. So let's take an example of sexual assault. If somebody is sexually assaulted by a classmate, how are they going to feel once they're in the same classroom with the actual perpetrator who sexually assaulted them? Are they even going to show up to that class in the first place? Or what about cases of stalking? Individuals know what the survivor's schedule is, so they know where their classes are, they know where they work, they know who their friends are, where they live. So it's these situations that make the survivors feel trapped. So that's why the university has an obligation when it comes to these issues. And I do want to point this out. I don't know if you all caught this. However, I said the Office of CLEAR started last year, September 1st. And with Title IX, I know it's been around for a long time. However, it seems like now, like 4 years ago, maybe 5, we're just now having a heavy emphasis on Title IX. But yet, these issues have been around for such a long time. Why is the Office of CLEAR just now getting started? Now, I'm not necessarily looking for any answers. I mean, if y'all want to take some shots, that's fine. However, I do want to put it out there. We have these issues that have been happening for a long time, but why are we just now taking action? Why is the Step In Stand Up campaign so new? Why is the It's On Us so new? And yet, let's be honest, when it came to education, especially when it came to college, it wasn't something for women. But yet, these issues do highly affect women. So once they actually get the chance to receive a college degree, look at what they're met with. Just want you all to be thinking about these things. Questions, comments, or concerns about anything I just said? We're going to move on with the presentation, if not. Alright. So I'm going to go ahead and go back to the original PowerPoint here. Now, we're going to do a little bit of truth or myth. And I do want to break the ice again. Now, when I ask a question or when I read the statement, Go with your first original thought. Don't feel hesitant like, oh my gosh, if I say this, is it going to be stupid? Or, oh, man, I really don't know and I don't want to say anything because I feel so embarrassed. This is a non-judgmental zone. I ain't going to be judging any one of y'all. So, when I read a statement, please just share your thoughts and go with your honest choice. Now, there is truth, there is myth. However, I am going to allow for a gray area. All right? And when I read the statement and I say, is this true? How many of you all think it's true? You can go ahead and raise your hands. Now, are all of you on the same page with me? Cool. If someone is in an abusive relationship, they have the option to leave that relationship. How many of you all think this is true? Okay. How many of you all think that this is a myth? All right. Anybody in the gray area? All right. For those who are in the gray area, why?
I feel like they have the option to leave because you have your own self-will and you are able to leave that relationship. But if it's an abusive relationship, they may be, I don't know how to say it, they may feel obligated to stay with that person, I guess.
Okay. I got you. Yeah. Anything else from the gray area, folks?
I mean, honestly, exactly what she said, that's kind of where I was. Like, you have that option, but for some people, I thought you don't have that option, so.
Okay.
It's another relationship.
Nice.
I feel like you always have the option. People just choose not to do it because they feel like either like it'll be a lot scarier if they do. Like their
Mhm.
life would be like either that person's bringing in money or a certain kind of comfort or a certain kind of protection or something from something. So they feel like that is scary, but they still always have the option to leave.
Nice.
I can also like see how they can like see it in the gray area because just because like you might leave the abusive relationship, but the other person has to also like let you go. So I feel like the relationship's not quite over until both parties like decide that it's over. So I can also see the gray area.
Okay, yeah. I got you all. So, any last? Yeah. Mhm.
I feel like you have a free will relationship in like certain cases. You could be like you're like a regular life and they leave. Clearly, it's like not an option. They leave it.
Yeah. All right. Yeah, that's all good. So that was some good dialogue right there. However, I do want to say it is true. They do have the option to leave, and you all did point out these key aspects. So they have the option. However, there are some things going on, especially when it comes to abusive relationships that other people are not aware of. So if the survivor in this particular case do choose to leave, what are going to be the consequences? That's something to think about. And we're actually going to dive into this a little more. But I do want you all to think about this. So it is true they do have the options to leave. However, there are barriers from them leaving that particular relationship. So I want to put that out there, and we're going to actually revisit that point later in the presentation. Next one. Many women falsely report that they have been raped. Now, actually got something to say about this. I know the word many could be kind of tricky. So I'm just going to ask this question real quick. How many of you all think this is true? Okay. Got one person. Gray area? Okay. Now myth. Okay. Now for those who are in the gray area or who are in truth, what percentage would you all guess? Or actually, I'm going to put that out for everybody. If you all could put a rough estimate percentage-wise of how many false reports are made in regards to women being raped, what would you all say? Less than 3?
Isn't it 1 to 4% or something like that?
Oh, we'll find out. Anybody else want to put out a random estimate?
5%.
5%? Okay. Anything else before I reveal the answer? Oh, okay. This is a myth. And statistics from the FBI, the Rape, Abuse, Incest National Network, and various other researchers and organizations that have done research on this topic prove that depending on the year and depending on which article you read, it's anywhere from 2 to 8%. And that falls exactly right in line with other crimes. How often does somebody lie about being robbed? Right. Yeah. It seems like people laugh about, that statement, but when it's like, oh, well, how many women falsely report that they have been raped? People are like 30%. Some people say 60. But yet, why is it that we have, and I don't mean you all, but people in general, the general population here in the United States, we have this misconception that when somebody is raped, they are lying. Why is it that we have this thought about that? Any takes on that? Any thoughts why? Yes.
We'd like to think someone wouldn't do that.
Okay, we would like to think that someone wouldn't do that. That's an interesting statement right there.
I think false report people don't think so much as they're lying, but as like they contributed to the raping. So they were either wearing slutty clothes or they flirted with the guy. So it wasn't really rape because they contributed to it.
Interesting. And okay, I'm glad you made that statement because we're going to talk about that later. Oh, why is she wearing that short skirt?
Mm-hmm.
Oh my gosh, she got that drunk? What did she think? What did she think was going to happen?
I think that's interesting when people say 30 or 60% because most women actually don't report when they get raped.
And that is what you said is absolutely true. It is underreported. And some people may say, well, if it's not reported, how do we find out? Well, there's these surveys that actually go out to various universities and colleges, and based on the results that they received, that's how they determine if sexual assaults are underreported. So they have questions like, have you ever been kissed unwantedly? Have you ever been touched inappropriately? Have you ever had sex against your will? And depending on the results, they'll ask a final question like, have you ever reported anybody for sexual assault? And if they say no, but they indicated to yes to all those other questions, that's how they determine the results. So this is some good discussion. You all are making some very good statements. I just want to point this out. The statements you all are having right now, and the dialogue we're having, I wish we can have this throughout our entire university. So it's like, if we cannot even speak about these issues, how are we going to solve them or prevent them from happening in the first place? Now, you all as resident advisors, trust me, I have been an RA. I don't know if y'all know that, but disclaimer, yes, 3 years I have been an RA. Now, if you all don't know, I'm going to tell you right now, you all have some major roles here on this campus. And I want each and every single one of you to understand that. Next, rape is about the perpetrator pleasing their sexual desires. How many of you all think that is true? How many of you all think that's a myth? Anybody in the gray area? So, why would you all say it's a myth?
Power.
It's about power. Alright, I ain't gonna lie, man. Ooh, y'all so smart. Dang. Yes, you all are absolutely right. So it's about power and control. And, I'm very grateful for working for the office that I do because there are new perspectives being brought to the table. And I didn't even realize this until my colleague Ryan Jackson. He said that there have been studies done on rapists, and results and research actually shows that a lot of rapists have access to consensual sex. They have people who they can have sex with, but yet they still commit the crime of rape. Why? Because it's just something about that power and control. Some of them are actually in intimate relationships, but yet, once again, they're seeking that power and control. And when interviewed by the people who are actually intimate with these rapists, they indicated that this particular perpetrator does have controlling behaviors. So it's coming back to that aspect of power and control. Now, I want you all to take a look at this wheel right here, known as the equality wheel. Now, we're going to take more of a positive spin in this section of the presentation. But looking at this, actually, I'm not going to ask that question. I'm going to ask this. What does a healthy relationship look like to you all? Not speaking strictly in regards to intimacy. What are some things that needs to happen? Yep.
Communication.
Communication. Gotta have that good communication. What else?
Did you say not speaking directly to intimacy? Or
Oh no, I said directly speaking about intimacy.
Okay.
Like strictly speaking about intimate relationships. Oh, come on, man. What? You don't mean to tell me y'all don't know what a healthy relationship is supposed to look like? Yes.
Honesty.
Honesty. Gotta be honest. I mean, dang, y'all can refer to this wheel if you want to.
Respect.
Respect, one of our core values here at Texas A&M. Actually, let's speak about that respect. What does respect mean to you all? Yes,
I think for me it's treat others how you want to be treated.
I like that. Anything else on respect?
Especially in intimate relationships, whether you agree with someone or not, and whether that person's making you happy in that moment or not, like still treating them in a sweet, like in a way that is showing them that you love them.
Right, I like that. So I'm gonna put myself at risk here. Let's just say I am being intimate with someone, right? I'm just like, dang, this person look good. Whew, man, I just want to go for it. It's like, is it alright if I give you a good night kiss? And they look at me and I'm like, you know, I'm already taking it as a no. Because if I'm asking someone if they want to kiss and they hit me with that, you know, that's not what I'm doing. You know, that stuff happens. However, at the end of the day, I have to be respectful of their decision. Regardless if it's a yes, no, trust me, if it's a yes, I'm going for it. Hey, I got the yes, and it was a freely given yes, especially if it's enthusiastic. You best believe I am going in for that kiss. All right? But if it's a no, gotta respect that answer as well. So I want to point that out. Any last comments, questions, or concerns when it comes to healthy relationship and what that means for you all?
I think like being in agreement with each other and just kind of, in a sense, holding each other accountable and like this, I guess kind of like going with communication, like communication, like the boundaries between like both the individuals and like going into the expecting like respecting those
Alright.
boundaries.
Definitely. Be clear about your boundaries and your intentions when engaging in certain kinds of intimacy. So, we have this wheel. Now let's take a look at this wheel. Now, I want you all to take some time, and I want you all, I know this is kind of a small font, but read over some of the dynamics here and let me know what stands out to you all. And we'll have a discussion on it, because there's a lot to cover in this one.
They're using a lot of her and she, like I feel like men can be abused as well.
And you're absolutely right. I wish this wheel right here would have used gender neutral language, because I do want to point this out. Of course, men can be victims of abuse as well. There's no hiding that. It's true. Now, when it comes to interpersonal violence, yes, women are the majority of the victims. However, men do get abused as well. What pops out at you all?
It's all basically just treating that person like a very young child that you're disciplining and that you have no respect for. That you're just like trying to teach them lessons, but that's not what an intimate relationship is supposed to be.
Definitely. You're absolutely right. So, let me see. Emotional abuse. Let's speak about that. Obviously, this is one of the more obvious things when it comes to abusive relationships. Calling the particular victim, in this case, names, saying bad things about them, trying to put them down verbally. Now, of course, this is one of the key aspects that people do think about when it comes to abusive relationships. However, let's compare emotional abuse to economic abuse. The reason why I want to point out this one is when we speak about abusive relationships, a lot of people don't think about economic abuse, trying to control what the victim can or cannot spend their money on. Or what about isolation? Trying to control who they can be friends with, who they can see, who they cannot talk to. And those were just a few examples. However, I believe I did ask a question when looking at all these different dynamics. what sticks out to you all? What do you all want to have a discussion on? Is, of course, I can talk all day, but I shouldn't be the only person speaking. Yes.
So for the using intimidation, where it says the abuse of pets,
Mm-hmm.
like you know, like you would think it was just like the individual and not necessarily like their pets, but
Right.
there are some people that really do take like their pets, you know, like seriously or like really. So.
Pets are a part of the family. So it's like, and that's actually what I want to come back to in regards to people wanting to leave the relationship, but there are barriers from leaving the relationship. So it's like, you know what, I can't do this anymore, I'm leaving you. Well, if you leave me, something's going to happen to your dog. Isn't that crazy to hear? That's horrible. Or nonetheless, using children. What are they saying about the kids? No, you can't leave me, we have a baby together. You're going to do this to our child? Trying to make them feel guilty about it? So these are some of the barriers that happens when it comes to abusive relationships. What else comes to mind when looking at this? I'm surprised nobody said anything about this right here. Male privilege. What do y'all think about that?
I don't think that's the right wording.
Why?
I don't like the whole privilege, like argument that some people, the white privilege, the male privilege. I don't like that argument, but I feel like that is a very real thing, though. That using your male dominance or the physical dominance to go into the
Interesting. When it comes, yeah.
Oh, I think it could be, sorry.
No, actually that is fine. Go
I
ahead.
think it could be easily like confused with traditional family life. Like, oh, the guy is the breadwinner, this type of deal. Like, especially with not so much our generation, but like our parents and then their parents, our grandparents. Like, it can be confused as like, oh, this is just how a traditional relationship goes, and we're kind of changing that with, like women, being educated and that type of deal, like independence and such. But I think it could easily be just like slid under the rug, like, oh, we have traditional household, but that's how we do it.
Interesting point. Nice.
I just had a question. I read something where some people actually use religion to control people. What would that fall under?
That's a good question. As a matter of fact, looking at this power wheel, do you all think there are other forms of abuse that could be incorporated into this wheel? So maybe religion could be one of them.
well, physical abuse isn't on there, is it? I mean, it's on the outside of the wheel, but
Right. Yeah, they didn't really actually put in physical abuse. However, we will speak about physical abuse looking at another image. But I do want to come back to this conversation of privilege. So, let's be honest. Are there some individuals who have privilege?
I don't
Yes?
think so.
How so?
I think that every person walks their different life, and I think that just because one person's a certain color or certain gender, they don't necessarily have more privilege or less privilege than another person.
Okay, now I'm going to have a quick conversation about that. Women, tell me what you all do to protect yourselves from sexual assault.
Not walking alone by yourself at night.
Right.
I carry my keys kind of like this when I'm alone.
Mm-hmm.
Like, see that?
Yeah, and why is that?
So if someone attacks me, I need to defend myself, and men are usually bigger than women, so I'm little, let's be real.
Right.
I need a weapon.
Okay.
And I've been thinking about getting a pocket knife to put on there.
Right. Mm-hmm.
If I am gonna go somewhere by myself, I usually tell a friend or a family member or like to tell them I'll reach this place at this time, like make sure I reach that place.
Right.
I usually call like one of my friends or stay with someone on the phone while I'm walking somewhere, just so like if something happens,
Okay. Can of pepper spray?
That's dangerous.
Okay.
You'll get someone with that.
Yep. Men, what do y'all do?
Carry
Do y'all carry pepper spray?
Very kind.
Carry a knife?
I think that men should do something to protect themselves because I think men are attacked too. But I think that
Right.
teenage boys or college guys just think, oh, no one's gonna attack me. I think we just feel it more as women, but they
Right.
still have it.
And it's true because men can be attacked as well.
Mhm.
However, when being raised in a household, I didn't get that. I didn't say, oh, hey man, carry a pepper spray at night, or make sure you have a weapon on you. Hey man, go ahead, make sure you walk with a group of friends because there's a rapist on the loose and he's gonna come and get you. Like I didn't have to grow up with that. I have to think about those things. If I walk outside right now and it is dark, I am not thinking about having a group with me. I'm just. But yet, you see all the comments that the women made? They were raised with that. See, I had the privilege of not even having that kind of discussion. Why? Because as a man, it is seen that I don't need it. So we can actually speak more about privilege, and it does tie into what we're speaking about. However, that could be a conversation for another time. So if y'all want me back, yeah, go ahead and invite me out. We can speak about privilege. However, we are going to speak a little bit more about that. But before I move on from this image, is there anything else that you all want to point out in regards to this image? Because I'm going to tell you right now, we're going to go a lot deeper. All right, it's going down. So, let's speak about hooking up. Good hookup. Nah, for real. Hey, we're all adults in here, and we are going to talk about sex. We are. All right, so now, is there, put it like this, when hooking up, when we say hook up, what does that mean?
No one ever knows.
we don't ever know because people have different perceptions, right? Right? Yeah, people have different perceptions of hooking up. However, I'm just going to be like, for the theme of hooking up, we're going to talk about sex. So one night stands. We're all clear on that? Now, let's just say Dimitri is going to have a hookup or a one night stand with someone. What do I have to do to make sure it is a good hookup? You say clear? Make things clear. Have consent. Thank you for pointing that out. Communication, and definitely speak about those boundaries or my intentions.
Have a respect for each other.
Yes, I have to respect my partner or whoever it is I'm being intimate with, and they have to respect me as well.
Not only consent, but consent through every single step of what you're gonna do.
Right. Every single step. Be clear about the boundaries and the intention. So if somebody doesn't like something, it's like, all right, well, would you like to do something else? Anything else when it comes to a good hookup? How about something like using protection? So we won't have an unwanted pregnancy or an STI involved. And let's be real. All right, I'm going to be real with you all. Okay, I'm going to put myself out there. If it's going to be a good hookup, I sure hope it will feel good. Like, I want my expectations met. I sure hope that what it is that I'm getting into, it'll be good. Now, the reason why I say that is because when it comes to bad hookups, now, what would equal a bad hookup? And we can speak about me in a hypothetical situation. So we already spoke about the good hookup, but what would a bad hookup be?
It's being forceful.
Being forceful. Now, I heard the word force. And I just want to put this out there. Is there a difference between a bad hookup and sexual assault? Yeah? What would be the difference?
I think there's just a line there.
Yeah.
Bad hookup, I just, in my mind, means like it didn't feel good.
Okay. Maybe it didn't feel good, or it could have felt good, but maybe somebody got an STI.
Yeah.
I sure wouldn't be happy if I, hooked up with somebody and next time I went to the nurse or the doctor, they tell me I got an STI. I'm like, what? That's a bad hookup in my opinion.
The difference between bad hookup and sexual assault is consent.
Bingo. And I like the fact that you pointed that out. Because with a bad hookup, consent is still given. Maybe there's just some unfortunate events that happen. Like for instance, if I'm over here thinking, man, this person is so beautiful. Who we about to get it on? Oh my gosh, this is going to be amazing. and we get in. I'm thinking this is gonna be like an hour-long thing, and it lasts 2 minutes. I'm like, what the heck happened? That for me may be a bad hookup. Is it lasts 2 minutes? I'm over here thinking it's gonna be an hour long. I'm thinking it's gonna be this spontaneous thing, but yet just 2 minutes. However, we're gonna move on. Dang, are y'all uncomfortable speaking about hooking up or what? Because y'all a little quiet on me now. Alright, now I'll say throughout my presentation, this is one of the most difficult topics there is. So, let's be real, y'all. No, first I'm gonna ask this. Is there a difference between drunk sex and sexual assault?
Yes.
Okay, what would it be? If you could explain, if you want to.
I think drunk sex is, the difference is that both of you are drunk. I think if the guy is sober, like we'll use the guy as the sexual assaulter. If the guy is not drunk and the girl is, then I think that there's that's much closer to sexual assault. But if they're both drunk, then I think it's really hard to call sexual assault on the guy who's fully inebriated too.
Okay. Any other perspectives out there?
Drunk people can't give consent.
That's true. Drunk people cannot give consent. And that's what you were gonna say?
Yeah, because I remember part of the consent definition was being clear-minded, and sometimes when you're drunk,
You're not. That's true. Any last comments about that?
But it still happens. Like people
It
still have
does
drunk
happen.
sex, and that doesn't mean that's sexual assault, like necessarily.
Right. So this is one of the things that I'm going to try to clarify. So when it comes to drunk sex and sexual assault, there's this weird theoretical line. Why? Because drunk sex does happen, but I want you all to understand this is a very risky thing. Why? Because you don't know who's going to wake up the next morning and be like, I was too drunk to give consent. Now, let's be real. There's those situations where both people were drunk and they wake up the next morning like, all right, we had drunk sex. It's just like, oh, okay, well, they're fine with it. However, like I said, it is very risky. And both ends could potentially say, hey, I was assaulted. But see now, that's when things get really complicated and confusing. And that's why we encourage people to have sober sex. Because it's not to say that alcohol is a bad thing. If y'all get drunk, you drink alcohol, that's your prerogative. However, understand the riskiness with drinking and engaging in sexual behaviors. Any questions, comments, or concerns about that?
So what do y'all do as an office when both people are drunk and the girl legitimately thinks that she was sexually assaulted, but she did give consent in the moment, she just doesn't remember it, all that confusion?
Now, we are on the prevention side. We don't do too much intervention. However, I do have an answer for you. So there are investigators, and based on the evidence and what people are saying, they are going to be the ultimate ones to determine the outcome.
Okay.
So that's why things can get tricky, because we don't know how much detail we're going to get, and it's not like we were there when it happened in the first place. So that's why we encourage people to have sober sex, because with this whole drinking and engaging in sexual behaviors, things get really complicated. So the investigators try to do the best they can.
Now, would it make it confusing, like if they were sober and they gave consent before they actually got drunk? I mean,
So, are you saying like they were engaging in sex while they
no,
were
they
sober?
were. I guess.
Wait, they
gave
consented
consent.
to having drug sex?
Yeah, I guess.
Well, that
If that makes sense. No.
happens in every step of the way, right?
Yeah, that is a very complicated question.
Okay, yeah.
Let's have drunk sex tonight. Is that what you're
Right.
saying?
Well, I guess if they want to have drunk sex, then. And I'm pretty sure there's some people out there who do. So at the end of the day, they consented to drunk sex. However, I wouldn't recommend that. Anything else? Now, I do want to come back and speak about 5 key norms in regards to interpersonal violence, or I do use the term violence against women. So, power over others. We have some individuals who have power. We have some individuals who do not have as much power as some others. So, I do want to put it out there. Power is neither good or evil. All right? And not to get all Star Wars-like on you, but it's up to that individual. You can use your powers for good. You can use it for evil. However, it is up to that particular individual or group of people of how they want to use their power. Could you all think of some relationships where power could be present? In a job, you may have a supervisor and an employee. Nice. Or teacher-student,
Mother-son.
mother-son. So those are some good examples. Another key norm is violence. Now, let's be real, y'all. Violence is everywhere. It is in the media. Like, come on. There's a whole bunch of TV shows and a whole bunch of movies that have violence. Could y'all name some forms of media where violence is present? I'm pretty sure we can talk about this all day.
Sports,
Sports? What kind of sports?
football.
Football? Yeah, it is.
MMA.
MMA? You got people literally trying to break the other person's arm, trying to knock them out. That is one of the bloodiest sports there is. All on that mat. Man, it's crazy. But people watch it. People love it. Y'all ever thought about Tom and Jerry? Man, y'all see that dang on mouse and cat? They take pots and pans and ping, ping. That is crazy. But at the end of the day, it's violence and kids watch it. It is very interesting. Anything else y'all want to say about violence and how it's accepted everywhere? Third key norm, limited notions of masculinity. And of course, I have a little heading right there. Boys will be boys. Why is this very interesting when it comes to key norms? Yes.
I think it's like people like to justify that boys just will be violent. Like it's just in their nature. So it's something we need to accept. It's not something that's wrong.
Right. Or even when it comes to sexual violence. Well, I mean, she was wearing that short skirt, so he couldn't stop himself. You know, boys, they just do stuff like that.
It's like they shouldn't be held accountable for their actions.
Bingo. So when we have these limited notions of masculinity, yes, it does tie into sexual violence in some aspects. However, let's flip the script here. When it's a man who is actually sexually assaulted, what are people going to think? What do y'all think people are going to think?
Why didn't you just enjoy it?
Exactly, especially if it was by a woman who could be the potential perpetrator in this situation. It's like, what? You're a man? You were sexually assaulted? Are you kidding me? Or what if it's a man being abused in a relationship? Like, dude, man, my girlfriend punched me in the face. Well, you're a man. What the heck? Really?
You can be accused of not being masculine.
Bingo.
Not
So
man enough.
I'm glad that you said that because these are examples of what male victims could go through as a result of limited notions of masculinity. Next, limited notions of femininity, oppression and objectification of women. What do you all think about that statement?
What are you trying to say with it? Like, what does it mean?
So, oppression of women? What
Like,
do y'all think
how
that
are you
means?
how are you tying that into the 5 key norms? What do you mean?
That's a good question. So, when it comes to sexual assault, obviously, who does it affect more? Exactly. So now, with oppression or objectification, oppression, obviously, why is it so underreported when it definitely happens to women a lot more? Why do you all think that is so underreported?
Shame.
And not only that, what's going through the perpetrator's mind when they are committing a sexual assault? You know what? Let me do this for you. Actually, before I do this, go ahead.
I was going to say basically what she said earlier. Basically, they're blaming the victim. Like if you have on a short skirt, you're at a bar, and a male, I guess, flirts with you, and you don't want him to. They'll justify that as, oh well, she's wearing a short skirt, and maybe she wanted the attention.
Yes, that's definitely part of it. There's a lot of things that can go into this, but actually I got a little bit of a demonstration for you all. And I want to know if you all can pick up on what I'm trying to say here. Hello, chair. Is it alright if I sit on you? Yeah? Alright. What is so weird about what I just did?
It's an object.
It's an object. I'm over here asking a chair if I can sit on it. What are chairs made to do? Thank you. And a chair is an object that you pointed out. Now, let's go into the mind of a perpetrator. Women are just objects. If I want to have sex with one, well, why would I ask for consent? I mean, they're made to have sex with anyway. So, why ask? Why not take it if I want it? That's what objectification is, and that's why it's so dangerous. Questions, comments, or concerns?
I was gonna say, like, with media, I feel like that's definitely like a big issue in a sense, because it's like being like objectifying like men as well, but more so like women. So after seeing it for so long, like you start internalizing it, and I think that that's what kind of like the internalizing is what kind of creates the actions or like the thoughts. Like they just be like, oh well, I've always been told that whether directly or indirectly. So
I'm glad you pointed that out. It's been existing in our country for so long, sometimes people start internalizing it. Now, the last but not least, privacy and silence. And what I want to point out is, when it comes to these issues, generally, I mean, sometimes it does happen, but it's not usually something that is done in public. It's something that's taking place in the household or somewhere where it's closed off from other people from observing. So, look at issues of dating or domestic violence. It usually happens in the house. And sometimes there are things going on in these relationships that other people are not aware of. So I do want to point that out in regards to the last key norm. However, let's take a look at this. Now I know this image may be very interesting, but when we are looking at this, it is called the pyramid of misogyny. Does anybody have any idea what misogyny means? Yes.
It's a hatred of women.
Bingo. So, I want you all to look at this pyramid and tell me what is so interesting about this.
I
Yes.
feel like most men fall like underneath like glass, like above, like this is normal for jokes and things and generals to be talked about and assumed in today's society.
Interesting. So all of this is definitely normal. All of this is the bottom of the pyramid.
What would verbal abuse and language, how are they different?
That's a good question. What do y'all think?
When you refer to a woman as female, and you only ever use the word female because that's like, I think that's more animalistic. If you don't use a woman or a lady or something like that, I think it's part of your language. But verbal abuse goes into you're a whore. I think it goes to a different level.
Right. So I actually want to dive into the language portion a little deeper. Referring to women as the B word, or actually referring to them as hoes or sluts. It's an example of the kind of language they speak about in regards to referring to women. Was somebody speaking?
Verbal abuse?
Yeah, now with verbal abuse, that's actually calling them certain kinds of names. So when it's actually, and I mean, that's a pretty good question. Don't get me wrong. These things tie into one another. So it's referring to women as the B word, but when it's verbal abuse, you're literally trying to break that person down and mean it as an insult. Sometimes when people are using these terms, sluts and hoes, they don't think they're doing anything wrong. They don't see it as something that's an insult. And it's coming back to these things becoming internalized and normalized for people to use. People be like, oh, she's such a B word, and they think it's all right to say it. What else is so unique when it comes to this pyramid?
That so many of them are kind of just accepted, but then once you get to a certain line, it's like, no, like you can't do that. But then it's just leading to that.
I'm glad you actually pointed that out. There's a level of progression right here with this pyramid. Now, before I move on, I want to make sure that you all have nothing else to say, because if you do, please say it now. All right. So with this pyramid, this is suggesting that violence is on a continuum. Starts with words, leading to actions. One good example of this, I actually had some people tell me some stories about domestic violence. And what they repeated that their former partner said to them, the former abuser, it's like, what, they actually said that to you? And let alone, not only were they saying things, but they were doing things. It started with words, it started progressing from there. And not only that, when we're looking at this pyramid, Seems like once it reaches physical abuse or sexual assault, that's when people want to start taking action. It's like, oh my gosh, this is wrong. We shouldn't do it. But why in the world, as a society, do we wait until it gets to the top of the pyramid instead of attacking it from the very beginning? Oh, maybe I know why. Because when you call somebody out on a joke that is sexist or misogynistic, or if it's a rape joke, then they're like, oh my gosh, why are you such a feminist? Oh my gosh, I got freedom of speech. Oh my gosh, you're looking into it too much. I'm gonna share one story, and I'll never forget this story. So my colleague, he actually told me about this story of an athlete. They were on their way from a game. There was one perpetrator, one bystander, and there was a whole bunch of people on this bus. But these two individuals are the key characters in this story. So, perpetrator on the bus, saying all these sexist jokes, referring to women as the B word. The bystander's like, I don't know why this individual keeps saying all this stuff. But yet, this same bystander found out that that perpetrator was later found guilty of a sexual assault. And that bystander said, you know what? Of all people on that bus, I'm not surprised it was him. Why? Because he was referring to women as the B word. He was the one making all the sexist jokes. So I'm not surprised. However, when he was saying all that stuff, I wish I would have said something. Why? Because it would have made him think twice about committing a sexual assault. So, what I want you all to understand from this is, if people don't speak like this, then they won't act like this. Questions, comments, or concerns? Alright. So, during the last portion of this presentation, this is bystander intervention. I know I said I'm more so on the prevention side. However, of course, intervention is necessary and needed on this campus. So here is one definition of bystander intervention. Take some time, read it over, and then we're going to break some things down. Everybody ready? Cool. So I'm going to give y'all a list of intervention strategies that begin with D's. So we have direct, distract, delegate, and delay. Now, I want you all to read this scenario, please. All y'all done? Cool. So, with that scenario, I want you all to get into like groups of 4 or 5. You all are going to speak about, based off of that scenario, how could you all intervene directly and diffuse this potentially violent situation? All right? And here's what some examples of what it means to be direct. Let me know if y'all got questions. So y'all can go ahead and discuss with your groups at any point in time.
Like, what would you do? It's different opinions. It's really not just that much. Yeah. That's like most perpetrators are people we know.
Well, but if they're good friends from I would feel like if I would feel comfortable with my friends.
Yeah, but again, like rapists are people you know, and sometimes it's not just I met them that night or it was a friend of a friend. Sometimes it's a new friend you know. It's like even then, because like you know, you should be like, no, I'm or like I would feel more comfortable with people like me rather than letting it in.
What if it's your boyfriend?
Still, because like it looks good, like he's being a nice guy, but there's still that openness to something could happen. And I personally would rather do something and like make a fool of myself
So what y'all come up with?
I feel like that's really easy to be like, oh, okay. Like, he seems like
Any
a-
suggestions? Any
nice
thoughts?
guy, so I don't have to take
Let me
it.
know what y'all came up with. How would y'all intervene?
That was the one anyway, so I'll take it.
All right. Yeah, you can just directly get in there and be like, yeah, you know what? I'm taking her home. What else? Y'all mean to tell me y'all were talking for this whole time and y'all don't have anything to say? Yes.
We mentioned like you saw her like leaving and you said, oh, like, kind of interrupt this in a sense and be like, oh, like I just remember like I remember I told her mom that I like come back tonight or something like that. So like just make up like a story in a sense.
Mm-hmm. Nice. Any final thoughts of how to intervene directly?
We kind of disagreed because I thought like since he met her that night, like that's not okay. But if it was her boyfriend or like a longtime friend, like I thought it'd be okay if he took her home. But like, do you think that'd be okay? Like obviously it's her boyfriend.
Wasn't there said that they just
Yeah, but what does it change it if he knows her for a long time? In your mind, in y'all's mind?
Right. Now, like we said before, when it comes to sexual assault, sometimes intimate partners do commit acts of sexual assaults against their partner. So, if you all believe, let's just say based off this scenario, that something bad is about to happen, how could you all potentially diffuse this situation?
If it was with a boyfriend, I thought like, well, I'll catch you out with you too or something.
So you can be there and make sure nothing happens, right? Now I do want to point this out. Sometimes when we give this example of directs, people think like, oh man, things about to get violent. Oh, they about to square up. Like, nah, that is not what this is. It's just, not only can you be direct with the potential perpetrator of this scenario here, but you can also be direct with the potential target. So you can speak to them as well. Like, for instance, I'm not letting that stranger take you home, or you can just be direct on both sides. So it's a matter of where your comfortability is. So based off this same scenario, how would you all use the technique of being distracting to diffuse the situation?
Oh look, she just threw up again. I'm gonna go take care of her.
Right, exactly. You can do that. And of course, based off of some of these examples, someone could spill a drink. But before I actually go into something about distract, what do you all have to say in regards to distract? Anything that you all would do that could be different than the examples? Wait, I didn't hear that one. Run that by me one more time.
I feel like the last one.
Oh yeah, that one, that might get you to some conflicts right there. However, I mean, it's a matter of what you want to do, but I do want to share a story. So, man, this is why I like my colleague so much, because this junk be cracking me up, man. He's one of the most interesting people I ever met. So, he actually used this technique one time. He was actually at some carnival or some kind of event, and so he saw these 4 individuals, and it looked like a double date. And so one particular individual looked crazy as heck. It was a dude who was with a woman, and Ryan can actually tell that this woman was uncomfortable around this guy. Now, based on his looks, I can tell why she was uncomfortable, but let alone his actions were quite uncomfortable as well. So just to give you an idea of what this guy looks like, he had a tattoo of the state of Wisconsin on his stomach. He also had on one of his shoulders St. Patty's Day 2008. And then on his, I think it was his left side of the chest, he had a target as a tattoo, and his left nipple was the bullseye. So, real strange fellow right here. We're gonna call him Tattoos McGee. So with Tattoos McGee, he just kept touching this young lady, and she kept pushing him off, and she was just blowing him off. She kept saying no, but he just kept on advancing, just kept touching her, and it was unwanted. And Ryan's just like, oh my gosh, like, what am I gonna do? And people are literally having their cell phones thinking this is funny, and they're videotaping it. Just like, Ryan's like, man, I gotta do something. So he went to their friends. It's like, hey, what's that young lady's name over there with that tattoo-looking guy? Like, oh, her name is Emily. And Ryan's like, okay, I think I know her, that's why. So he goes up, he's like, Emily? And she's like, huh? It's like, hey, it's me, Ryan. You remember me, right? She's like, we went to high school together. I was in your 4th period English class. And she was like, oh yeah! This is literally, I ain't gonna lie, this man is lying. But she believed him. But yet, he used distract to get her out of that situation. And Tattoos McGee was trying to get it all in there. And Ryan was just being that good gentleman he is. And he's just intervening, making sure that Tattoos McGee isn't a problem. But later on, Tattoos McGee ended up leaving. And Ryan had an honest conversation with her. She was letting him know, yeah, that guy's a creep. I don't know why my friend stuck me with him, but thank you for jumping in. And she later found out that they didn't really know each other. However, I thought that was quite hilarious. So last but not least, how would you all, based on this scenario, get someone to potentially step in and do something if you are uncomfortable? So overall, how could you delegate this task to someone else? And you know what, y'all can just talk to me. You don't have to get into groups or anything. Yes.
Say if you're at a bar or something, you can say something to the bartender or like a bouncer, like, can you really watch them? Like, I'm really uncomfortable, like, I see some things.
That's the perfect example. Get a person who is in authority or in a position of power to step in and intervene. Because one, that's their job. And if not, you can find somebody who is willing to step in and be that person and be that good bystander to get that person out of that situation. So delegation can definitely come in handy if you yourself are uncomfortable stepping in. And if you need to, go ahead and call the police if you think something's about to go down. So the scenario changes a little bit, but let's say this happens. Everybody done reading that scenario? So, if somebody actually disclosed to you that they were sexually assaulted, how can you use this technique of delay to actually respond to that person? What could you all say to them? What would you all say?
Well, we have to inform the people that whatever they say to us, we're gonna tell, like, someone higher up. Like, that's either one of the first, like, that should be one of the first things that we tell them, but we also ask, like, if they feel safe, if they're okay, like, if they wanna go to the hospital, stuff like that.
Right, I'm glad you said that. Anything else you all could say if somebody discloses to you that they have been sexually assaulted?
I think kind of letting them know like you believe them, because a lot of times like even their closest people that they tell, like they're like, no, like it's just joking or something like that. So then if they don't report it, or they just like, oh, it's not that big of a deal, like it's innocent or it's not
Right.
important.
Thank you for sharing that. Because that's something that I frequently tell people. You all being resident advisors here, if y'all take anything from this presentation, I want each and every single one of you to understand this. If somebody discloses this kind of information to you all, please say, thank you for telling me. I believe you. How can I assist you? What do you need me to do? Why? Because I wonder how many times somebody has actually said that they have been sexually assaulted, but they were, well, how much did you have to drink? Were you drunk? Why were you so drunk? Oh my gosh, why were you walking down the street so late at night with nobody there to protect you? What? I don't believe you. That person's too nice. They didn't do that. So if anything, say those positive, reaffirming statements. I believe you. Thank you for sharing. Why? Because people who actually have personal testimonies of being sexually assaulted and saying, nah, I don't believe you. That can literally tear somebody down. Now, I wonder why sexual assaults are so underreported. Because a lot of times they're not believed. questions, comments, or concerns about this? Or about anything throughout this presentation? Questions or comments about me working here? No, literally, I've only been here for almost 6 months. If y'all got questions like why I do the kind of work I do or what made me come down to Texas, literally, I don't know why I came down to Texas. It was a job opportunity and I ended up here. But I do want to share this. Put a disclaimer out there. I am not a survivor. I'm not. There's this thought that, man, well, maybe something happened to him and this is why he does the kind of work that he does. Well, no, I haven't been in these kind of situations. However, I think it's important. Why? Because for one, from the stuff that I've heard and from stuff that I've heard and the things that I have been informed of when working in this kind of a work environment, like these are some issues that need to be tackled. So I'm just, at the end of the day, an ally that's trying to prevent these issues from happening. Because if we don't end it now, they may reach the ones we love. I want to be a father. I want to be a husband. I'm a younger brother. I'm an older brother. Now I don't want any of my family or friends to experience any of these. So that's why I want to prevent them from happening.
What university did you come from?
Came from Grand Valley State. It is in Allendale, Michigan. That's about 3 hours from Chicago.
Okay.
I got my master's and my bachelor's from that same university.
What was your major?
My major in undergrad was liberal studies, which is kind of like general studies with an emphasis in breaking systems of oppression. So I studied race and sexual orientation, gender, things like that. But for my master's, it was in higher education, specifically in student affairs. Anything else? I saw you rubbing your face. I didn't know that. Yes.
I mentioned just to the last group, but if you wanted to get some other, I guess, touch-feely experience with it, there's a show on, I forgot what channel it's on, but it's called American Crime, where 2 males are involved with a sexual violence case. So if you ever wanted to look at those episodes, so just something that's on TV right now.
Yes.
If they wanted to get y'all and your colleagues to come to the halls and program, how would they do that?
Well, they can do that by either sending us an email or they can call our office. So, yeah, dang, I'll be having one of those days I forgot my business card. Yeah, but my email is this second one, obviously, Dimitri W at Student Life. And make sure y'all please spell my name right because there's no I after the D, it's D-M-I-T-R-I. Yes, and I wrote it right there. I don't know if y'all can read my writing, but it's there. So, this first one's for the office, this one's mine, and this last but not final one is Ryan Jackson's. Great colleague of mine. We're both very passionate about this, so it's as simple as making an email for us, or y'all can call me because I remember my work number. If y'all, I don't know if y'all want to write it down. Of course, it's 979-862-9111.
That's a good one.
Oh yeah, and Tiara, I know you got my information, so. And you do too, Angela. Yep. So those are
Thank
2
you.
resources for you all right there. Any other questions? Yes.
I do have a question. I just watched this show. It's called Lie to Me. There was one instance where it was on a college campus, and there was an underage girl went to a party, a frat party or something, and she ended up having sex with somebody. But and I guess but the guy never knew that she was underage because he assumed that it's a college or whatever, so you must be. And she was kind of the one that initiated. So what would happen in things like that if the person didn't know?
Yeah. Now, I'm no expert when it comes to stuff like that. However, I know there are some issues in regards to somebody being of an age and having sex with an underage individual, and these situations do happen. So overall, dang, yeah, that is quite tough. I know sometimes, unfortunately, one of the people, depending on who is older, sometimes they will have a word with the police and they will further investigate that, but I'm going to have to get back to you with a more concrete answer because it depends on the situation that determines the outcome. So it all depends on where you're at, how young was this individual, and what truly happened. Because there's a lot of different dynamics that goes into situations like that. Because it's one of those sticky situations. So I'll have a more concrete answer. I'll follow up. Anything else? What questions do y'all have? Cool. Well, thank you. Yeah, don't be afraid to email me, but I want to say thank you all once again for inviting me out. This was awesome. I'll love to do it again. And if y'all want to speak to me one-on-one, I'll be over here for a little bit. So, yeah, feel free to come and talk to me. Thank you again.